how to advance at 10 times the speed in life. Okay, so if you're watching this, I'm assuming you're already doing something productive with your life, of course, but you're trying to speed up the process. You're trying to get the most out of your time. And you probably look at really successful people and you wonder, how is it possible that some of these people seem to achieve so much in so little time? And this is a paradigm shift that I had not long ago, seeing especially being able to be in direct contact with people that are way more successful than me, and that, for example, have businesses that make way more money than what I'm currently making, than what we are currently making. And the first thing that you need to understand is that we all have a specific amount of hours in the day, which is 24 hours. We don't have more than that. So we are limited in terms of the time. And so the thing that changes is what you have leverage on. So what you can use as leverage to actually get more out of those 24 hours. And now the type of leverage that I want to talk about today, which I think is one of the most important by far, it's being able to identify the right problem. Because this is the issue with most people, especially if you're a beginner and especially if you want to achieve something in whatever you're doing, but you're not experienced yet, which is we tend to focus on the wrong problems, which means that we are actually focusing our attention on the wrong things, the things that don't actually move the needle, okay? And so I want to pull up this, which is a concept that I learned recently from one of our mentors, which is the quadrant of problems. I hope you will be able to see it. But basically, you have all of these different options of where you are falling into, which is either you have the right problem and the right solution, or you have the right problem and the wrong solution that you're applying to it. You have the wrong problem and the right solution, or you have the wrong problem and the wrong solution. Now, if you have this, you're solving actually things and you're getting where you want to get. You have the most amount of leverage possible because you're actually solving the thing that needs to be solved in the right way. This usually never happens because like you just really don't know what you're doing if this is the situation. So this is not really common. And the truth is, this is also not very common because the issue most times, and I will give you an analogy to better explain this, but the issue most times is in identifying the right problem. Because the solution, most times, it's pretty intuitive. If you know exactly what your issue is, getting the right solution to it is actually pretty intuitive. So I will give you an example in terms of business. If you knew that the issue that you had was traffic, and there are just few ways of getting more traffic, which is, like content, paid ads, or outreach. If you knew exactly that your problem was the fact that you don't have enough traffic, the solution would be pretty natural and pretty intuitive. You don't have to think about it that much, which is, I need to reach more people. And I will just pick one of these ways to reach more people. The issue is, and this is what I realize, most people tend to fall into this category right here, which is, again, the solution is usually quite intuitive. And so you're applying the right solution, but to the wrong problem. You're pulling the wrong lever. And this is what actually slows you down. And this is what actually makes you not have leverage and actually take more time to do things and to get to the result that you want. And so I will give you an analogy, as I was saying. If you think about medicine, okay, so a doctor that has to cure a patient, think it this way. If you knew exactly what you had, if you knew exactly your illness, if you had an exact diagnosis at all times of what you had, you could probably just Google the symptoms, or better, you could probably just Google that illness and find some kind of solution, like there will be the specific solution to that specific problem, okay? By the way, this is not medical advice, of course, like it's just an analogy for the sake of the example. Just wanted to make that clear. But if you knew exactly what your issue was, what your illness was, the solution would probably be pretty intuitive, which is for this kind of illness, there is this kind of medicine. The problem is that most times, and this here I'm taking the example of the system body, but the same applies with business. So the system business has so much chaos and so many variables that it's incredibly difficult for someone who's not experienced enough to actually diagnose the problem and to actually understand what the problem is, okay? And so an experienced doctor actually has the context and understands the issues of the human body and understands all the different variables that comes into play. And so he's incredibly useful and he's incredibly good because he can understand the context and based on that create a diagnosis and understand what the problem is, okay? Because again, like providing the solution is not that difficult. Getting the solution is usually pretty intuitive. And so the same exact thing applies in business. Most times the big issues that we have is that we identify the wrong problem. So with that being said, how do you solve that? Now, there are basically just two ways of solving it, okay? Which is either through your experience or through the experience of others. Because as I was saying in the example, the way that you learn how to identify the right problems is through experience. Because once you see patterns repeat themselves over and over again, you start identifying the problems and you start being able to actually, again, get more leverage and move faster because you are able to identify exactly what the actual problem is. Which again, it's usually pretty simple to solve if you actually knew what the issue was. And so, as I was saying, you pretty much just have two options, which is usually you bang your head against it or you pay the doctor. So you pay someone who's more experienced to teach you and give you their experience and get them to identify your problem. And this is the reason why it is incredibly important to invest in education. And this is literally like, I know that it's stereotypical that everyone says that how important it is to invest in your education, especially when you're in business and you are your main asset. But until you actually experience that, it's incredibly difficult to understand the amount of leverage that it gives you. Because I will tell you a little bit about our story. So we invested in a coaching program, a really expensive coaching program when we felt stuck in business. And just by doing that, and I'm telling you because this story is funny. We attended one call of this coaching program, one live call of this coaching program. And after that, in 1 week, we completely changed our business. In 1 week, we did our first launch, who went on to do $4.5 thousand. And a month after, not even a month after, we did a second launch, we did double that. So we did 9K. And so what I'm trying to make you understand is that the reason why it's incredibly important to invest in education, it's because these people that are more advanced than you, of course, someone who can prove that they are actually more advanced than you, that they got more results than you, already went through the trials and tribulations. And so that is by far the actual biggest leverage that you can have. Just learn from them and you can shortcut time, literally. And so I think this is incredibly important. And I get it if you don't have the budget, for example, if you're just starting out, if you're a beginner and you're just starting this journey of business, you're trying to figure out things. And the other thing that I would say, which is, as I was saying, like kind of like the second option that you have, if you don't have the budget to invest in education, which by the way, again, like that is literally the way to shortcut time because you're paying the doctor. You're paying the doctor to diagnose yourself instead of trying to pull everything together in something that you don't have enough experience in, and so you can't recognize the patterns, and there are too many variables and too much chaos for you to be able to identify the right problem. And as I was saying, the only other option that you have is to actually just learn from your experience, which again takes time, but to actually bang your head against it and try things out. And that is incredibly important because I want you to understand if you don't have the first option, so if you can't actually invest in your education right now because of whatever, because of the financial position you're in, the only other option that you have is to actually try things out, to learn from your experience. And this means trying things out. It doesn't mean thinking about things. It doesn't mean planning things. It means trying things out. Because most times if you spend too much time just over-analyzing the situation, you will never get out of it because the only way to actually understand how things work is with practice, is by actually putting the work in and trying things out. And so you will learn much more by trying and doing 100 times than by thinking about something for 100 hours, okay? And so the same thing applies with content, which is what we do. And if I had to tell you, how do you make better videos? How do you make videos that go viral? The first thing that I will tell you to do, if you can't actually invest, for example, in someone to teach you exactly how to do that, is post 100 videos, post 200 videos, post 500 videos. I promise you, you will get way better. And you will get way better than by just spending time analyzing videos and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And again, this is incredibly important because the only scarce resource that we have in our existence is time. And so I promise you that anything that will save you time is always worth doing, or at least taking into account. So again, how to get 10x the speed in life? You either pay someone who has the experience and can diagnose the right problems, or you learn how to identify the right problems by putting in the work and actually doing the thing. So this is pretty much it for this video. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and we'll see you in the next one.